Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo doo.
Evening, gang, and welcome to another episode of the Welch Review.
Yeah, so we're your hosts, Sam and Stefen, and today we are talking about a little movie called Soul. Steph, what do we got in Soul?
So for starters, Soul is a Disney Pixar film, and it premiered on Disney Plus, right? And in the film itself, we have Jamie Foxx as Joe, Tina Fey as 22.
Wait, that's Tina Fey?
Yeah, as the
I
consciousness.
had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't either until I looked it up and I was like, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Graham Norton as Moonwind, and Graham Norton is a British talk show host from The Graham Norton Show. He plays the hippie pirate.
Yeah, I remember who Moonwind is. He's the man.
Rachel House plays Terry, so Terry, we'll talk about Terry, but Rachel House played Terry. Alice Braga played one of the Counselor Jerrys. Richard Ayoade from The Watch, right? The curly-haired glasses guy. Remember Ben Stiller? They fight aliens. He was the real awkward dude.
Yeah, okay.
He is another one of those counselors named Jerry.
Yeah.
Felicia Rashad as Liba. Donnell Rawlings. I love Donnell Rawlings. Donnell Rawlings is a comedian, and his homies with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah?
And Donnell Rawlings he has one of the most original voices. He's just hilarious. Look him up on YouTube. Donnell Rawlings is the man, especially on The Breakfast Club. He's great on that podcast when he's a guest. He plays Dez. Questlove plays Curly, and Questlove is the band leader for The Late Night with Jimmy Fallon.
Okay.
He's from the Roots.
Okay.
And then you have Angela Bassett as Dorothea, Cora Champomir as Connie, Margot Hall as Melba, David Diggs as Paul. David Diggs is the new star of Snowpiercer. He's the main character.
Okay. He was from Hamilton, right?
Yeah, he was Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
I love him in that.
He's great.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson was great in that.
He also played the teacher in Wonder. So, he's just an all-around, very versatile guy.
He's doing a lot of stuff.
He is. He's dipping his toes in pie. You don't dip toes in pie, but you know what I mean.
I might.
Then you have Rhodessa Jones as Lulu, Wes Studi as another Counselor Jerry, and Wes Studi's a great actor. He played the bad guy in Last of the Mohicans.
Oh, wow. So he's an older guy.
Yeah, dude. He was also in Heat. He played one of the cops with Al Pacino.
Dang.
But he was cooler in Last of the Mohicans as the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then you had June Squibb as Juro, and Fortune Feemster, who's a female comedian, as Counselor Jerry. June Squibb also played Sheldon Cooper's grandma on The Big Bang Theory.
Okay, so they have a bit of an older cast.
They do. They do. It's very it's interesting. There's a lot of established stars who don't get enough recognition, people up and coming.
That's awesome.
It is. And then it was written by Pete Docter, Mike Jones, and Kemp Powers.
Mike Jones, yeah.
Not that Mike Jones. Not looking for a dime.
Oh, man, I wish.
I mean, it's top of the line, but it's not him.
Yeah.
And then this was directed by Pete Docter and Kemp Powers.
Dude, only if it was that Mike Jones.
Imagine he's just like, yo, man, I got a sensitive side, and you ain't in the parking lot to
I'm
figure it
looking
out.
for a dime, but I died. So Soul is a movie about jazz, and not only jazz, but also being dead. So we start off with our main character. Yo, feed me his name. What's his name? Joe. So our main character, Joe. I should have known that. That's a very straightforward name. So Joe, he's a jazz musician, not doing too hot at finding gigs, right? So he's been working as a music teacher, or just tutoring kids and how to play like
band.
Yeah, band or jazz music. But he hasn't found a full-time position until recently, which was out of school. So that kind of leads me to believe that in the past he had I don't know, some kind of temp position, or he was literally just mentoring different kids, teaching them how to play piano or whatever they were.
He's a part-time dude because, like you're saying, he's been chasing the dream.
Yeah, I've just never seen a part-time teacher before. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Actually, I've seen one, so that's a lie. But that happened this year. Anyway, so it's
first time for everything.
First time. It takes place in New York City, and he's offered this full-time position at a school with benefits and, a stable salary and all this other jazz, jazz. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So he doesn't actually really want this job, though. He wants to make a name for himself. Also, his dad was a musician, so a lot of his stuff is like, he wants to like honor his father and be, kind of like, kind of follow those same footsteps. Not necessarily for his father, but just because they happen to have the same passion, right? And his dad introduced him to jazz. So Joe, right after getting this job offer, gets an invite, right, from one of his former students, Curly, who's now playing with a very prominent jazz musician, and basically they had a dude to play piano, but that guy got like sick or was out for some reason, so he was like, who's really good at piano? My old teacher Joe.
My old teacher Joe.
And he's right, because Joe claps. Joe's a great pianist, especially when it comes to jazz, namely when it comes to jazz. So Joe goes down, he meets this lady, he's like, she's like top of the line, not in a creepy way, but like, like one of the best jazz musicians around. So playing with her is gonna like make his career. So he, decides, this is what I'm gonna do. His not interview, but his audition goes amazing. She wants him to play with the band immediately, but while he's celebrating, right, on his way home, he's not really paying attention to where he's going. We're going on this montage of like all these different ways he could die, and then he walks through walks over a manhole cover that isn't covered, right? There's like some construction or something. So he walks right into it, falls into the sewer, kaput, dead.
But like as he's leaving, right? He says like he could die a happy man, right?
After playing.
Yeah. So, but like think about that. How many times do people say things like, "Oh, I'm so excited, like this went so well, I could just die," right? Or even like loose-handedly, people just like, "Oh, I'm dead," or "Kill me now." Like these offhanded remarks that obviously no one means, but when you put it out there, right?
Like when it's actually happening.
Right, like Joe did. He put it out there, and then it happened.
Yeah. So he dies. He's supposed to have a gig that night, which is like his dream, right? So he did get to play with her technically, but on stage he's going to get his real opportunity. But now he's dead. And he's on like this escalator that's pushing him off towards the light, heaven or just the afterlife. It's not really descriptive. And he runs away from it as fast as he can. And then the rest of our movie is really about him trying to find his way home, which is home, back to his body, right?
His
back
soul's home.
Yeah, his soul's home, his body. So that's his journey, and on the way, he meets this unborn spirit, right? It hasn't come down to Earth yet. It's named 22. And he's supposed to, he basically gets tangled up and being forced to mentor it. So this 22, right, that's the number of human, like the number of spirits on Earth, or at least that had been created, right? We're on like hundreds of millions now. But 22 has been in the before life forever, because she refuses to finish her mentorship, or I guess it's genderless at this point, so it's mentorship, their mentorship, so Joe basically comes up with this idea like, hey, you give me your ability to go down to Earth, that way you don't have to go to Earth where you don't want to be, and I get to go back to my body. So they make this agreement, and it eventually just takes them on this wild ride where a lot of self-discovering happens, and a lot of story details that I can't tell you take place. But at that same time, Joe's being hunted by this interdimensional manifestation of what are, for all intents and purposes, angels, right?
Except it looks like a mole.
Yeah, except it looks like an ugly mole made out of very crude lines.
Like the spirit of Winnie the Pooh and a Diglett combined would make like
Terry. Yeah. So you have the generic interdimensional angel guys, and their name is Jerry, and they all kind of have one consciousness. But then you have, like, the leftover angel named Terry that nobody likes. He's very into himself, very about himself, and he's responsible for counting all of the souls that go to heaven. And he's like, yeah, one's missing. Where's this Joe guy at? So all of the Jerrys are like, we don't actually care. But Terry, if you do, you can go figure it out, man. Go get him, Terry. Go
Make
get
yourself
him.
happy, man.
Yeah, really, they just don't want Terry around, so they're giving him like dumb work to do because they're like, all right, Terry, leave me alone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, so Terry begins hunting down Joe in his pursuit to drag him back to the afterlife and to well, he doesn't really care about 22, but in doing so, you know, basically ensure that 22 goes down to Earth.
I guess since you touched on that, it's a good, you know, like, pause, because you gotta, you know, watch the movie to find out the rest of it.
Yeah, we're not giving you any more.
But, what were your thoughts on Disney's, like, makeup of what, like, the afterlife is?
I like how indescript it was. Like, they showed a before life, which is really just, kind of like a safe place for like child spirits to evolve. So basically like babies, right? Mm-hmm. Babies to come into being to learn to understand things, to be prepared for the cruel hard world that is Earth, to gain a personality and passions and desires that seem to be like innate in people. So I thought that was a pretty interesting way to display it, right? They would like send these kids in to like get specific personalities at specific like pavilions, and they were like, self-aggrandizing narcissism. 12 of you, go on in there, become horrible humans. And then another one of the Jerrys is like, maybe we should stop sending people into that building. And it's like, yeah, you're totally right, you should, but they do it anyways. Because I don't actually care that much.
Well, there needs to be a balance, right? Like, for every good person, there has to be a counter.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not for every one. Maybe for, like, every 5.
Yeah.
For every 5 good people, there can be one crappy one. But anyways, so I thought they did a very good job of portraying that as somebody who, like, studied religion in college. I like that they didn't actually show the afterlife, right? They showed like a waiting room, but they didn't show an afterlife. And I think that's important because even from just like a philosophical perspective, claiming that you know what heaven's like is like claiming you know, like, you know, what an alien on a different planet would look like. You have no idea. You can only make guesses. There's a famous Taoist quote, right? That says, he who claims to know the name of the Tao does not know the true Tao, which basically is saying, like, if you think you know what God is and what God's like, then you're stupid, and you don't actually know anything. Because how are common people supposed to understand or perceive something that's that much past us, right? And heaven, in a lot of ways, or some kind of afterlife, would be that same way. How are we supposed to have an accurate image of something that we have no capacity to understand?
So, in a way, then, like, you're saying, by creating this kind of, like, holding zone, right? This safe spot where spirits can be fostered and grow before they make their descent on Earth, right?
Yeah.
Disney, I think, then has done the smart route, right? Because they've made a starting point, which I think everybody of any creed, religion, belief system can identify with, while leaving the overarching big picture of what their afterlife is open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Right? Which, you know, is smart for a variety of reasons, but, like, I don't know, I feel like it's a cool way of connecting it, because everybody has their own thoughts on what the afterlife is. So, like you said, Joe comes up there and he's on this escalator, right? And in literature and when people are resuscitated, they say they saw the light. So they literally just show
the light.
And then it's like, once you go in it, who knows what that is? So, like, it sounds like they took, maybe not intentionally, but, like, that quote holds merit. Disney doesn't try to push any sort of specific, like, belief on anyone.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So, like, I don't know, but like there's something unifying in that. So I thought that was really done. And death is scary. So the fact that they didn't focus on that long line to the light, but they focused on like, hey, here's where spirits begin. Right? I thought that was cool because death is a scary subject, right? And people don't necessarily like talking about it.
Yeah.
But like you involve it in a way with kids, then it becomes a little bit more like, if done right, it's lighthearted.
That part's not about death though. That's about like birth, right? So like that holding place is all about birth, which I agree is very creative and smart because it's not. It doesn't infringe on anybody's beliefs or ideas because everybody to some extent kind of has an idea like there's a such thing as a human spirit. Every religion has that belief. Some people believe that it recycles constantly, right? And other people believe that everybody's spirit's unique. This is kind of just like a holding place for those spirits to go out into the world. Maybe not very cohesive with Hindu or Buddhist ideals, but aside from that, it's a pretty universal. Well, I don't want to say message, but idea.
Yeah, no, but it is because everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So like that whole thing is pretty cool. I think it's interesting how. Right. So like he kind of essentially gets to start over in a way. Right. Like remember, there's a scene where they're like, oh hey, you have to find like not what your purpose is, but like what he thinks is a purpose, but just like hey, what sparks your interest, your hobbies, like your will to live. I don't know what that French term, the French term, the fleur de lis or something like that. No, not the fleur de lis.
I don't know, I'm not French.
But there's a thing where it's like the spice of life, essentially that. But it sounds cooler in French.
I believe it.
So my apologies that fleur de lis I think is just a symbol. But anyway.
Love you.
What I'm getting at is when he takes 22 right into the hall of you right where like mentors can showcase like hey this is what makes my wheels go right and she's like wow your life is kind of sad right like or not she but 22 they say to him Joe your life is kind of sad right there's a lot of high points and low points which is life right but like it's a lot of him looking at TV, a lot of him doing like mediocre chores, and then like he as well gets to see that, right? So then like he can in a way get that second wind.
Well, I don't know necessarily if it's a second wind. I think that what happens throughout this whole film is Joe gets a new concept and kind of has to come to terms with the idea of death, and he, in that moment realizes that he hasn't done, by his own consideration, a lot, right? To himself, in his mind, he hasn't really done anything on life. And I think what he comes to realize throughout the movie is his greatest achievement isn't necessarily him playing jazz, but it's what he's provided for his students. And not only his students in real life, right? But like Curly is now a very successful drummer. Mm-hmm. That little girl who plays the trombone, who's very good at it.
Who's thinking about quitting,
Who's thinking about quitting. She's good because, one, she's naturally talented, but two, because he taught her. And then, in the end, his greatest sacrifice is to help 22, right? So his contribution to the world is being a teacher, and that is valuable. And I guess some of it isn't even a contribution to the world, right? Because 22 is not even alive yet.
Well, it's future generations. That whole idea, like you're setting the building blocks for like what comes next.
Yeah, but it's. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, life has meaning outside of like just yourself, and I think that that's kind of what Joe finds. He does achieve one of his dreams, but that I don't think is his journey. I think his journey is realizing that helping others is a valuable thing that he has done in life.
So I guess then my next question then, right, like, so obviously this movie, it has a little bit of everything, and it's a heavy film for a Disney movie.
Yeah, it's real heavy. Well, I mean, Disney movies are like, bam, shot your mom, bam, shot your dad, bam, both your parents are dead. You know what I mean? So, like, they're...
Death is a reoccurring thing with them, no doubt about it, but this is like a kid's movie that kind of explores more of that.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess, like, what would you say, like, the message that it puts out, right? Like, what is the theme of this movie? In your thoughts, like, after watching it and thinking about it a little bit, what would you say, like, the takeaway is?
I think for 22, it's not to be afraid, right? Not to be afraid to try new things, right? Because she's, like, real against going to Earth because she thinks it's going to be stupid and horrible.
Right.
But eventually she decides, like, no, like, living life is the best thing you can do. So I guess from her perspective, it's don't be afraid to live your life. And from Joe's perspective, I would say that it's, you know, anything that you do that helps other people has value. Like, anything that you do in life has value as long as you're not, like, hurting people, right?
Right.
And you know, not to be afraid of death, which I think for kids is a really heavy idea, but for adults, it's something that I think you need to kind of come to grips with eventually.
Right.
And, like, you know, that doesn't mean, like, yeah, like, dying's gonna be awesome, like, you know, obviously not. But yeah, I think you have to kind of come to terms, like, it comes for everybody, and you just got to do all of the best things that you can, like, while you can. You know, don't endanger yourself, but
right.
You know, like, live your life to the fullest. You know, give it your all. I don't know. What do you think the message is?
I feel like I can't come up, like, that's kind of it to a T, man. You know, I think you watch it, and when you're a kid, right, you don't really think about death. You know what I mean? To an extent, it's just like a foreign idea. Like, someone's here 1 minute, then maybe they're not. You're like, okay, well, you know, where are they? Where'd they go? Why aren't they here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then when you get older, you realize it's scary. So I think maybe the idea that they have a movie that could maybe open up the conversation a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying, like, oh, it's just like this. You know, like, when you're talking
it's not
to
a one-to-one.
Right, it's not a one-to-one, but it introduces that topic in a way that is slightly more lighthearted than how it may be in reality.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's preparing future generations to deal with that, and to also, like you said, like, hey, the most important thing in life, right, is to do your best and try and enjoy it.
Yeah, like, live it.
Live it, you know what I mean? And then, like, as an adult, when you watch some of these kids' movies, I shouldn't say kids' movies, but you watch some of these films that are put out, and it's like, wow, man, I wish this was around when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because it's hitting me hard right now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, and like Joe's whole journey, right? There are a lot of people who I feel like Barbara Minerva, like we talked about in Wonder Woman. Like, they're not part of the party, therefore they're not living. Right?
Yeah.
But it's not true. You don't need an invitation to enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Right? You know, you just got to do things that make you happy, and if you can help some people along the way,
that's what you got to do.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, but, like, that has to be the message. There's no in crowd to living. It's just you're out here doing the best you can for yourself, and hopefully making some friends and helping some people. So, like, I would say that's kind of the takeaway, you know, just piggybacking on what you were saying. you know. But it's really it's beautiful. It's a very beautiful film. It's a beautiful message. You know, I think it shares a lot of similarities to Inside Out, right? Who like not necessarily that movie's about like mental health, but like it opens up some of the ideas to like, hey, what's going on in someone's head?
Yeah. So I think not to get to like a weird place, but like the first time I realized I could die, I was like 18. I was like, oh my god, like what the hell have I been doing? Like, this could end at any second, and like, then there's nothing. So like, yeah, I think that this movie is kind of good for getting over some of those fears, because there was like a solid few months where I was just like, I could die at any second. This is horrible. I'm gonna live in my room and never go outside. And like, you know, like friggin' like 3 months before that, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna climb that. I'm just gonna climb the side of that building. That seems like a smart idea. That's 4 stories. Yeah, okay, I can do that. What's that? You want me to hang something from your balcony? Yeah, I'll climb up there. I'm invincible. Yeah, nothing can hurt me. What's gravity? So, yeah, it's just death really isn't something that you think about when you're young. Which is why I think that this movie's like target age group is interesting, and it's also why I don't think that it's necessarily a movie just for kids. Yeah. You know, it's definitely, it definitely has a broad appeal to people in multiple different age groups, and yeah, I mean, I don't care if you're 50 or if you're no, maybe 12. I don't know. This movie is heavy.
It's gonna hit you one way or another. Yeah. You're gonna get some feels real quick.
Yeah.
So I guess not to tiptoe out of the heavier stuff, but like being it so heavy, I found some of the best comedy came from Graham Norton as Moonwind.
Yeah, Moonwind was great.
Like, just, you know, I haven't seen Graham Norton do many movies like at all.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people probably haven't heard of him, but he's a talk show host, and he's very lively, very outgoing dude. I would say he's arguably better than like Kimmel and that other guy.
Which one?
The legit Fallon. He's better than Kimmel and Fallon.
Right.
But like he's like England's Stephen Colbert.
Okay.
At least in my opinion. I really like Graham Norton, so I hope this opens up more like voice roles for him or more roles in general. Because like he plays like he reminded me of Kramer, right? Like he's just out there.
Yeah, it's less anti-Semitic.
Well, yeah,
but also really awesome. So there's this concept in the show of like being in the zone, right? And being in the zone brings you to like this space near where the before life is. And if you're like too in the zone and in like a zombie vegetative state, you become like a demon, right? Like you don't become a demon, but like your zone self becomes like a zombie.
Wasn't it great that an example of that was a hedge fund manager, just like money people?
Yeah, yeah. So like people on Wall Street, for example, who like don't actually care about anything, but are very like in a groove, right? They do the same thing day in, day out. They have to be good at what they do. Actually, I don't know if they have to. They probably don't. But anyways,
might explain why we're where we're at. But anyhow,
so yeah, there's like one of those guys, and Moonwind, whose zone vibe grooving state is being like the dude who stands outside of a business with a sign. He's a sign spinner, but he's like the best sign spinner in New York because he gets in the zone. Him and some other people who get in the zone go around and like free and liberate these other like ghoulish people who become in the zone, like these hedge fund managers. And this one dude gets liberated, and he's like, "I'm free!" And then he just like wrecks the entire room. He's like, "We don't have to do this!" He's like flipping tables and celebrating. It's a really enjoyable scene.
But just like his levity, he's like, yes, when the moon is in the highest in the sky next to Jupiter, they're like, what? You know, like, I believe the government calls it 6 o'clock.
Yeah, 6:30.
But like, just, yeah, he really nails it. He just nails it. He brings a lot of that nice easygoing thing that, like, I think, you know, people hope for in their day, right? Like when they try to keep it mellow, like they say they're keeping it mellow, but they're not really mellow. This dude is really mellow.
I don't know if he's mellow. I think that he's kind of hype, but like he's like a very outgoing hippie. You know what I mean? He's like he's Orb Mom. If any of you guys like know like the people who like buy crystals and like have chakras.
Oh, okay.
He's like one of those dudes.
Yeah.
But he's very down to help you out with anything that you need. He's a sweet guy. He's funny. Yeah, Moonwind's hysterical. Great character. Even greater when he's not in the zone space. Yeah, seeing him on the street, I think, is one of my highlights of the film.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. Overall, what'd you think of this film?
Going into it, I was, you know, thinking like, oh man, this is gonna be sad. You know, and that like it met my expectations. I was sad, but like it was uplifting. You know, it was uplifting, and it was like at the end, it's like, okay, man, it's like one of those movies you watch, and you're like, I can do anything. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna go out there and do stuff.
I didn't have that feeling.
Well, by the end of it, like when Joe was like got his second thing,
I didn't have my feeling.
No,
and you can't say stuff like that. What's the matter with you?
Well, okay, spoiler. Big spoilers, but like it just seems like, you know, yeah, I don't know, man. Like a lot of things people think are like out of their obtaining, right? Or like they'll never accomplish things, and it's like, no, man. Like you make it at your own level. It just touches on that, like, hey, you can achieve what you want to do. You know what I mean? Like live your life, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. There are gonna be some roller coaster things, but like there are upsides.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying it's not hard. You know, like a line in the movie was, "You can't crush a soul here," meaning like in that like beginning spot, that holding area for unborn spirits, and then they're like, "That's what Earth is for," right? That's what 22 says to Joe. So like, there are moments where like, you know, you're down, but like it all comes around. It all comes around. So I felt pretty good after watching it. Is it something I'll watch multiple times? Probably not. I don't think I can emotionally handle that.
I'd watch it again, but I don't know. I would definitely suggest it.
Would you watch it 4 times?
Maybe not in a row. I feel like if you watch anything 4 times in a row, you have a problem and you need to talk to somebody.
I don't know. Crazy Stupid Love, I could watch all day, but that's another conversation.
Alright, well anyways,
what did you think about it?
No, I don't know. I'm just trying to close out the video, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I liked it a lot. I think that all of you should watch it.
Yeah.
You know, whether you, like I was saying, whether you're 50 or you're like 10 years old, it's a good film. It's a good time. I won't say that it's fun for the whole family because your child might cry, but it is a really good film.
I mean, you might also cry.
Yeah, maybe you want to cry with your kid. Yeah, and that's what this show's good for.
It's a bonding experience.
Yeah, so if you want to cry, if you want a heavy film, if you want something to think about at night, you know, while you're up because you drank too much coffee, because you're busy doing work that you didn't want to do, you know, this is a good film. It's a good film. Check it out.
You won't be disappointed.
All right.
We'll see you cats next time.
It's been the Welch Review.